plans, and that was a mouthful, as it connects to their personal concerns and academic and career goals, in particular returning to school. So there's multiple reasons why students come back to school, and it's about really unpacking that. Oops, sorry. And the other aspect is introducing metaphors and collective documents, which developed later after Michael White and David Epstein, and that would include the Tree of Life, and to help bring forth stories, in particular in communities that have experienced hardship. Okay. So I was just going to walk you through the process of the Tree of Life that is delivered in the classroom. Well, it was delivered in the classroom, now online, but give you a bit of context to an acknowledgement about the Tree of Life and where it came from. So the acknowledgement is that it was developed with Kuzula Nukub and David Denborough from the Dawlish Center in Australia. And Kuza is a psychologist, and she works with children primarily. And she was working with children that have experienced multiple hardships and losses. And she was using traditional trauma kind of forms of therapy, and found that for many of the kids that was not working. And so then she just kind of tapped into the idea of using metaphor and art activity to get them to talk about what's really important. And from there, the Tree of Life developed, and now this approach is used all over the world. It's amazing. And it's not just used with children, it's used with adults. There's groups that, individuals who've lived with cancer that they've used it with. It's used with Indigenous communities. I think it speaks a lot to people that really appreciate and respect the metaphor of the tree as it connects to nature. And it's used all over the world. And there's actually a Facebook page that you can access. It's open, called the Facebook International Group Tree of Life Narrative Approach. And wonderful, wonderful postings of how the Tree of Life is used in various communities all over the world. And this was a poem that was posted recently on the Tree of Life, and how the community got together and they just wrote this collective poem on how the Tree of Life exercise really had an impact on them. Some examples of the Tree of Life, and it's used all over the world in just different forms and shapes. The far left is a tree that was developed in Australia in an Indigenous community, and in the far right is actually a tree where I was given permission to share with one of our academic upgrading students. And I'll show you a number of trees. When I go into the classroom, I try to provide a number of examples. At the same time, I just want students to really tap into their own unique abilities to draw their own trees. So I'm a little cautious around that, because sometimes they want a prototype, but I really stress when I go into the classroom or go online that this activity, which takes place over 2 days, which is about 4 hours in the class, does not need to have artistic skills. It's more of an opportunity to tap into what's really precious and important to you. And you can express it in different ways, as using squigglies, lines, words, shapes, colors, even collage, cutting out. Here's some more examples. And I just also, when I go into the classroom and I'm sharing the Tree of Life, I'll just put the context of how that works. I will visit the class before I'll deliver the workshop, and I've been doing it online. So when I go into Heather's class, which is the 5th week out of the 7 weeks of her class, I'll visit on the Friday before I deliver the workshop on the Monday. And the students will be aware that I'll be delivering it, because it's also on her Rise outline of her course, but you know, sometimes I'll just remind them what we'll be doing for the two days over the 2 hours each. At the same time, I want to check in with them to see, because now we're online and I can't provide paper and crayons like I did when I went into the classroom. I'll check in with to see if they have paper and crayons, and as well let them know that they can draw their tree on a computer program. So I'll provide them with that link as well. So when I go in to deliver the tree, I also provide lots of examples of trees, photographs of trees, so just to kind of set the mood. And the next thing I do, here's some more trees. I'm a bit of a tree hugger. This is Hyde Park. Is I do a tree meditation. So I like to just walk you through the tree meditation just to kind of set them you know, the space and mind of connecting to a tree that's really precious to you. Okay. And this tree meditation is being morphed and adjusted and adapted over the last 5 years, but recently I adapted even further after listening to Jack Kornfield, who's a Buddhist practitioner who lives in the States, and it was in response to COVID. So, you know, just to get people to, you know, put ease or anxiety around that, and it was quite beautiful. So I've used some of his writings just to honor that. So please find a comfortable place to relax your mind and body. You can do so by sitting in a chair with your feet firmly placed on the ground, or you can lie down. As you are relaxing, if you can, let your eyes close and take a deep breath or two to relax tension in your body, to quiet your mind and listen more deeply. In this practice today, I invite you to remember a strong and steady and wonderful tree that you have seen in your life. It could be a tree you have seen in the mountains, in a park, in your travels, or in your imagination. Let this image of a great tree appear, and as you remember it and picture it, imagine yourself under it, gazing at the strong trunk, at the canopy of leaves with strong branches, with strong roots, going deep into the earth, steadying it through winds and storms, through rainbows and clouds, through beautiful days and droughts. You notice the sunlight filtering through the leaves and decide to lay under the tree, finding yourself completely relaxed. And as you're lying still, you hear the leaves rustling in the wind. You notice the beautiful fragrances coming from the tree. This tree has been your teacher. As you responded and weathered many storms and seasonal changes, you notice that the tree is strong and has grown healthy and gives you a sense of comfort, a warm feeling. You feel relaxed, happy, and safe. As you reflect on the steadiness of your tree connected to its deep roots in the earth, you think of how the tree has taught you and your own deep roots of connections to life going into the earth. You think of ways you are rooted in this earth and how you belong and connected to this earth in ways that nourishes you to feel like you're at home. And as you land more deeply in your body, let yourself feel as if you too are a sister or brother of this great tree with roots in the earth, with a strong trunk and branches that open to the sky. In this deep rootedness, let fears and tensions drain back into the earth. Let the roots converting water and nutrients to feed the tree. You are too finding ways to nourish your spirit, pumping all that goodness into your tree to have it grow and grow and grow, spreading down deeper into the earth, searching for water and food, like your roots, the good things from where you have come from, happy fond memories, food you've eaten and shared with others. As you continue thinking of fond memories, you take a good look at the trunk. You notice how solid it is. It goes from the roots of the tree all the way up to the branches. You notice that the trunk nourishes the tree by carrying all the goodness from the roots and the ground to the branches and leaves. It carries all the goodness in you. You may even think about yourself as the trunk of the tree, all the activities you've engaged in and continue to do so in your life, at home, school, community, with elders, with friends, activities you've done. You think about the activities and people that have sustained and nourished you and continue to do so. You also notice the branches of your tree reaching up towards the light, spreading out and reaching to the sky, reaching out and growing. You think about yourself and the branches you have, all the dreams and hopes you have for your loved ones, your community, and yourself. As you're thinking of your hopes for the future, you hear the leaves rustling in the wind. You notice that they're dancing in the sunlight. These leaves, you realize, are people who have been special to you in your life and continue to do so. They may have been there for a long time or just a short while. This could be even people who have passed on, dancing in the wind, reminding you of how you were in your life and continue to do so. As you continue to lie under your tree, you see the depth of the tree and the richness of all that you and others have added in your life, and you will continue to add as you learn and grow within yourself. Your tree is glowing as it holds all the good and wonderful aspects about you and in you. These aspects are reflected in the tree, having lots and lots of fruits all over it. These fruits are all the things that you've done and feel really proud about in achieving and feel good about. Like your tree, you stand strong and flexible in the great winds of vast time, amidst praise and blame and birth and death, beginnings and endings. There is a sense of rootedness. You are the tree of life amidst of all it. You have weathered the seasonal changes coming and going with a steady courageousness and caring presence in you. And when you're ready, come back into the room and slowly, gently open your eyes and refocus. Okay. That's the beginning of the workshop that I will do with students, starting with the meditation. And the next thing is, providing paper and crayons and instructions, which I normally would do that online beforehand, like letting students know ahead. So the process includes also describing different parts of the tree. So when I meet with students, I will let them know that we're going to be going through 5 different parts of the tree. And so to give room and space on the paper, although some students will just go ahead and just start drawing their tree and they'll be ahead of themselves. Everybody has their own process. But I just let them know that we'll start with the roots, ground, and the trunk, and branches, leaves, and fruits, and flowers, and seeds. And then that will be the first day, which will take about 2 hours, and after with the meditation. And then the second day is we'll create a forest, and we'll share our trees, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then we'll talk about storms of life as a metaphor. And then we'll do a letter exercise and certificates, documentations, which is a part of a narrative therapy community concept. Okay. So I'm just gonna briefly walk you through the different parts of the tree that students will be engaging in. And if you have paper and pen, I invite you, maybe you might want to write down some ideas that come to mind that connect to your own tree. And we won't, be able to spend much time, but just some, maybe some things might just spur and come to you. Maybe some reflective questions along the way. At the same time, just to let you know that you can use words, letters, squigglies, shapes, anything that you want to reflect on the different parts of the tree. So the roots connect to where we come from, including our chosen ancestry, our country of origin, people, family, tradition. It's anything that you feel connected to or treasure that you carry forward in your life carry forward in your life in the present day. So you have the choice. I really emphasize that with students because there might have been things in the past that they may not want to carry forward. So we're talking about what you choose and treasure in your life right now. It could be a favorite place, it could be a dance, it could be a story that you heard from a family tradition related to your culture, language. If you move from one country to another, it could be still you're connected, your roots to that particular country or province, or if you move from a small town to a larger city, you might still feel connected to that small town, anything around that. Want to carry forward, and you can express that and show that in your roots with words, letters, squigglies, anything that pops to your mind. I show this image as an example of how we can develop roots over time. It doesn't necessarily just start from the day we're born and the first, formal years of our development, but it actually can develop over our lifetime. And there's another wonderful tree. I think this is one of the oldest trees. It starts with B. I'm trying to remember, but it's such a beautiful tree in Africa. And then this section here that we spent a lot of time on, this is starting with the trunk, is our personal history. And we start with the ground, which is the metaphor of our present day, the activities that we engage in on a regular basis, that we draw nourishment from. And these are activities that we choose to engage that we really enjoy. And they could be maybe walking your dog every day, or it could be going to school, learning online now, any hobbies, outings, appointments, things like knitting or just connecting and chatting online, anything that you want to reflect on your ground. And then so I'm just kind of modeling how I would deliver this workshop with the students online. I would have the slideshow showing and images, and then I would have reflective questions. And of course, the pace is a lot slower than what we're going through right now. We're going pretty quickly. I would love it for everyone to draw their own tree of life, but that will be in the next one. So there'll be reflection questions that I will pose and present while they're thinking about their ground, and that would be, what kind of activities you do that you find sustaining and nourishing. It doesn't necessarily have to be every day. It could be during the week, once a month. And then I invite and think about, and it's interesting with COVID, what does your ground look like right now? Would you describe it to be bumpy, flat, rocky, stable? And if it is, bumpy, like what kind of activities are you responding to get over those bumps? Is anyone joining you to help you to get, walk and navigate those bumps? Is there a favorite place that you like to visit that would be reflected on your ground? And why is that important to you? Is there anyone that you would like to join your ground on a regular basis, or that is joining your ground? That would be the ground. And students spend quite a bit of time with that. And then we go on to the trunk, which is a larger part of the tree of life, because that really connects to your attributes that you value, your skills, your abilities, and how you apply those skills and abilities to nourish your relationships with family, friends, pets, community members. And then from there, I will pose thinking about how these abilities and skills and values keep you standing, even during times that you have a bumpy ground. So, you know, sometimes we get into the conversation, in particular lately, around COVID, and which we'll draw on even more further when we go into the storms of life, you know. Yeah, and these values and abilities, like what is it that you're drawing on in particular to sustain you to respond to the bumpy times? Because the thing about narrative therapy is that the concept is that you're always actively responding, even during difficult times. You're finding ways to navigate, even though it's difficult. And also thinking about the history of these skills and abilities, like reflecting on that. So I'll encourage you to do that. Like, where did you learn? Who influenced you to development of these skills and abilities? Who's helping you to hold on to these skills and abilities? And who's helped you to guide you through life to develop these skills and values and abilities? Do you have a name that you would say for a skill, like being helpful, being kind? So I'll give examples. Sometimes, you know, students might be struggling. And then I'll even invite, you know, somebody knows you really well. What would they say about your skills and abilities that they really value and appreciate? Be an auntie, a parent, a sister, a brother, a teacher. A lot of students respond well to that when they say teacher, in particular because in the personal professional exploration class, I get a lot of feedback from Heather. And just again, about where you've learned. And then I also encourage students to think about relationship to how you develop those and you apply those skills and values and abilities, and how it applies to people in your life and how you're able to feel safe in a good way. And invite them to write it down. I also invite them to think about stories. Is there any stories that come to mind that you know, that when you're thinking about your skills and abilities that you were taught by a family member that you would like to bring forth on your tree of life? Sometimes students might put it down a couple sentences or words, but when they come up and present their tree, they'll talk about those stories. Then physical accomplishments as well. Like sometimes, you know, students might get stuck and I'll say, well, what about, you know, your physical accomplishments that you've done and practical experiences that require skills and learning and abilities like parenting, cooking. And it also draws on values. So we, you know, unpack that a little bit further. And then I'll invite the students to look back on their ground to see what they've chosen to do during the week. And to apply it to their tree of life. So that's the trunk. It also goes on to more about the relationship piece. So I often will say too, like what you value in others often reflects what you value in yourself. You know, sometimes that's not always so obvious. So when you see a relationship that you value, what do you see people doing or hearing and saying? It doesn't have to be big things. You know, stress. Like spending time, listening. So the next piece is the branches, and that connects to the hopes and the dreams and the wishes that we want for our lives, but also for the lives of others that are significant and that we know. And you know, it doesn't just necessarily stop with people in our lives. It could be about the planet, for communities, nature. The list is endless. And it could be something you could be hoping in the near future or in, you know, down the road, like maybe secondary program. Sorry, somebody want to say something? No? And then I also to on their branches maybe to think about shorter or longer wishes and trace the history of where those wishes and hopes come from. And some of the questions to consider, what are the hopes and wishes that you have for yourself and for other lives, and where did you get them from? Like, and who's helping you to hold on to those hopes and wishes? They can make additions to their trunks and their roots. The next section of the tree, and I know I'm going really quickly over this, is the leaves. And this represents people in a good way. I want to stress that, that have been close to you and have influenced you directly. Or it could also be indirectly, like for example, it could be a fictional character or a hero or a pet or community. Or I mentioned about I give an example like Simone de Beauvoir was really influential in my, I turned 16, 17, I started reading her in terms of, really feminism. So I mentioned that. So it could be a writer, a thinker, activist. Many students have put down, in particular around Black Lives Matter, like Martin Luther King on their, they really acknowledge that, which is, yeah, beautiful. And it also could be leaves in the wind, fallen leaves, which mean people that have passed on, that are still important and still part of, who you are. And then the reflection questions, what makes these particular leaves, the people that you honor, special to you? You might have a story, an image, a word that comes to mind, a time spent. You might want to write about that on the leaf. And why and how are they significant to you? What have they imparted you? Like with leaves in the wind, people that have passed on, there's so much that we've carried forward because of their presence in our lives. And so just how is that honored, remembered, and cherished? And what would they say if they were in this room right now that you appreciated them and remembered them? And why? The next one is the fruits and legacies. And these are, what are the things that people have passed on to you that you value and cherish? And this could represent gifts that have been passed on to you or contributions others have made in your life. And they could be also represented on the leaves of your tree. The flowers and seeds, this is our trees are very fruitful and very flourishing because we are. And so this is where I invite them to think about the legacies that they would like to leave behind and write them next to the flowers. And these could be contributions that you've made or you would like to contribute to other people's lives and communities and the planet. And I talk about, like, I hope that I've been a really good auntie to many of my nieces and nephews, and that's really important to me. And it could also be things that you have never offered in your lifetime, but you wish to offer to somebody else or offer, in the future. Just so they can think about that. And then here's some examples that transpired. And I'm using a personal example of mine on the far left that I did. And it's morphed a lot. And the far right was a tree of life that was created by Heather Lash, who teaches in the personal professional exploration class many years ago. Then the next section, which happens on day 2, is the forest. But before I go there, I just want to say that there's always like a narrative therapy we call sparkling moments or that happen. And the sparkling moment with the COVID, I think, is that with delivering the Tree of Life online, it allows the students, I think, to reflect and ponder more after the workshop's over in 2 hours. What I do is I leave the slideshow on Teams and they can go back to it and they can add to their Tree of Life. And they really do. Where before, when it was in the classroom, I would take all their trees very, I would treasure that. I felt like I had gifts in my office and bring them safely into my office and then back the next day. But this way, with this, the students can add to their tree. And when they come back the second day, they can present their tree. This is an example where we would present it in the classroom. And instead, what we're doing online is I ask them to take a photograph if they feel comfortable. A couple students don't, that's fine, that's cool, and send it to me. And then I will display it on the screen while they present and talk about their tree. And while they're talking about their tree, students are attentively listening, as well as my colleague, Basil Coward. It's been quite a gift. He's been coming into the class since we've, since COVID, and co-facilitating with me. And he will, while the students are presenting their tree, he will take down verbatim what they're saying. And I'll show you what we do with that. While the students are presenting their tree, I'll present this and say that the students are to give feedback. And I frame it around love notes, like really notes of care, but also just to think about when they hear another student present their tree, it's something about what's their attention. And what was that experience like in hearing their tree? Was there an expression or story, a word that you heard your colleagues express that maybe got you thinking about your own life? So it's kind of deepening the story. Like it's kind of honoring to know that when you share your story and somebody hears it, it's got them to think about their life in a different way. It's like, it's like it kind of also helps to create community. Now, there's a lot of sharing that goes on in the Tree of Life, and I think the beauty is in sharing the trees in week 5, the students really know each other, and Heather does a beautiful job in creating community in the classroom. And so the students feel fairly safe in sharing. I think that's really key and important. I think it's a little harder to share, your tree with strangers. So, and I think that's where students feel really comfortable in presenting and giving feedback in ways that also reflects what they have learned from listening to their colleagues share their story. So normally we would do this by doing Post-it notes when we're in the classroom. Instead, they do it in the chat. Or they can, they can send a note to the student when they're sharing their tree. Okay. 3:45, okay. So the next thing is we talk about storms as a metaphor. And of course, COVID is a big storm right now, right? So, and we think about how it could affect our tree. And of course, storms could come in waves and winds. And so we think of, and it's an opportunity to talk about what could possibly be a threat to your tree. And this connects to the lesson plan. I don't know if that, Heather talks about resiliency. So it's really thinking about what's keeping you standing strong during this difficult time. What's sustaining you, how are you responding to it? And these are some of the questions we pose and have really rich conversation about this. And at the same time, Basil's taken down notes, and then we can create a collective document and reflect back. It's also tapping into the expertise of the students and how they are responding to their storms, as opposed to saying, if you do this, it might help you. It's avoiding, for me as a facilitator, to give advice, but more tapping into the expertise of the community in the classroom. So just how have you, what storms have you experienced in the past? And how, when encountering those strong winds, how did you respond? And how did you manage with these? And what has been helpful? And then just more in-depth questions around how to respond to the storms. And how do you keep standing in that? And then we invite to think about animals, metaphorically. What kind of animals would you like to be with you during a storm or crisis? Students really like this, it's fun. And the qualities of that animal that you appreciate and value. And that says something about who you would turn to when you're struggling with a storm. And then I invite them to add it to their tree of life, the animals. So we have a really rich conversation about that as well. And then I also invite them to think about, once they're finished, their tree, and add the animals to the letter to important people they thought of when they were creating their tree. They don't necessarily have to mail it, but just some, just a letter, just saying, no, I'm thinking about them. It kind of also maybe connects to the whole concept of gratitude, like thinking about people in your life that have been important and sustained you. And this is the document certificate that I will present that to students days after we do the exercise. It takes a while to create it. I would go into the classroom and do it, but now with COVID, I just email it to the students. I'll go in and join the class on team, and we'll put their words. This is where Basil, when he's scribing and the sharing of the Tree of Life, where he will scribe, and then I'll add it to the space honoring the multiple skills and abilities, and put what that would look like, and there's extra space for them to add. And just I'll ask them questions about the workshop, and then I'll just end it with this. All right, so Barb, how are we doing for time to do a group activity? We got like 10 minutes, right?
Okay, so yeah, we do have 10 minutes left, and we can, how long would you like to stay in the breakout rooms, given we have 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think maybe 5 minutes. I know it's really quick, but and then we can come back, maybe people, if they want to share.
Okay, that's good. So I'll activate the breakout rooms. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, or at the beginning, it will just randomly select, an even number of
Perfect.
people. And how many in each room would you like, roughly?
How many do we have here? I don't know. And I can't.
18.
Oh, we have 18. Oh my goodness.
17.
We have 17. So maybe four, I guess four times 3. I'm bad at math.
Yeah, we'll do 4 rooms. So there'll be about 4 people in each room.
Yeah. So, and then in the room, just to consider from what you've learned today, or, just some reflections, how do you see yourself applying the concept of the Tree of Life workshop in your personal life or at work? That's just or anything else you want to talk about. Bring back.
Good food for thought. So
food for thought. Yeah. Tree, ground for thought. Nurse.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to click the Create Rooms button. So it just takes a few seconds for you to see the little link to click on your breakout room. Okay. And then I'll broadcast a message about a minute before we're wrapping up to say we're wrapping up. And then you can click to come back into the breakout room.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah.
So here we go.
Thanks.
And yes, that is a fun detail, comma, even though it's a bit irrelevant, haha.
Is everybody back?
Getting there.
Oh, there's Basil.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Nice, nice to see you, Basil.
Hi, Barbara. Yes.
Thank you for being here. It's Basil's birthday.
All right. Happy birthday.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Oh, he just came.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine.
Happy birthday, Basil.
Thank you.
Yes.
Exciting.
Oh, I'm gone.
Are we going to ask you how old you are? No, we won't ask you how old you are.
Oh, I actually don't mind at all, Sharon, saying I'm 54 because my son tells me that there's still hope for me.
Okay, well, I'm very close to your age, and I don't think there's any hope for me. So thank you for sharing that, because maybe it'll give me some hope.
Sorry.
I'm hanging on to that.
Oh. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. It looks like I think we're pretty much all back in now. Chris, do you have any wrap-up words before I?
Oh my goodness. I just my deep appreciation you coming out to this and allowing me to talk about something I dearly love and try to put it in my, in a framework that hopefully is useful, or I mean, I'm open to having a conversation to talk more about it as well. If you send me an email, I'll send you links and also a little cheat sheet list, like, so you can work with students if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Basil,
I'm glad. Yeah, sorry.
No,
What's that?
go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I'm just going to say I'm glad that Basil's here because he's definitely been part of the delivery of that as well, the workshop.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'm just going to respond to a quick message in the chat.
Oh, okay. Here, I put it here.
That's okay. That one was for me.
Is it on the screen? I don't know if it's on the screen now. My contact information.
No, because you're not sharing the screen. Can you just type it into the chat?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so you can do it.
The chat's over here. Yeah.
Okay. And if not, I cannot actually also.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious to see how, like I heard one person say they may be able to use it, you'll be able to use it in one of their classes in a health management class. So curious to see how it can be used in different ways.
Right. Okay, well, you know what, Chris, the passion for what you do with this work is evident. It was really interesting to hear about it, and such, for me especially, and maybe for many others, a real departure from what I'd normally be doing at 3 o'clock on a busy day in the new semester. So thank you so much for taking the time to share that. The photos that accompanied your presentation were really, really lovely too. I think we could all agree on how beautiful it was to just take a look at some of those as we listened. And I'm sure we could all list a number of things that resonated with us. I loved the concept at the end of the letters of gratitude, to help acknowledge the people in our life that have made a difference, because we think that, but I think doing it is quite different. So that resonated with me near the end as well. And also the personalized certificates that you and Basil tag team on, that's quite something too. So thank you. Again, maybe in the future, we could ask you to do this presentation in person, but for the time being, everyone be safe. And if you are not on the current list of, that receives information about these sessions and other announcements from the CSC, just drop me a line and I'll gladly add you to the list. So have a wonderful evening. I'm sorry I kind of have to rush away, but I do have to open up another meeting at 4 o'clock. So
yeah,
thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Barb. I really appreciate this.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.